All right, welcome everybody. We're going to get started. Really appreciate you taking time this morning, especially our featured and one of our favorites, Katie Stevens, to talk about don't be afraid of the floor. And I think it's just an amazing concept, and we're going to learn some great things today together with Katie as the featured speaker. This will be recorded, and it's great about registration is we've got your contact info, so we will push the recording out. And as well, when Katie's speaking, I'm going to, via the chat mechanism, push out a resource document or example exercises that she's put together, and I'll make it available in email. So no worries about do I need to take notes. I think sit back and enjoy the presentation is the order of the day. So let's get started. I always try to look at quotes, and I look at this as motivation, and I think all of us in life, having a sense of humor is a big weapon because things have a tendency to happen when you don't want them to happen. And falls, like my wife says, and I think Katie will concur, it's like gravity. It happens. You don't plan it out. You don't see it coming, and it's scary. And I can personally talk to that with my mom, where I turned my back just for a second and she fell, and I will never forget it. So things that we're going to learn today are just wonderful. We can't prevent, gravity's there, but we certainly can take measures to make ourselves strong and then learn some simple techniques to get up off that floor. So you look at that floor and go, I'm not afraid of you, man. I'm going to take you on. So in terms of the flow, I'm just going to set it up very briefly. But we've been working with Katie for a long time and just talk about the importance of mobility. I always have in the back of my head, as long as I keep moving, things are good. Moving is a good thing. So we're going to talk about, why would I lose my mobility? I'm always going to have it. Well, there's some good reasons. And then really, what would happen if I do? And what you can, today's solution is, well, work with Katie is one of those options. And Katie will walk you through some of the things that she's developed over time. And then we'll finish up with an open Q&A to fire away. So introducing today's speakers is Katie. Her and her husband are the owners of Steps of Recovery. She's right down the road from us in Cary. She's a wonderful physical therapist owner, and she does great things in the community. Very, very an advocate obviously for keeping yourself fit, exercising. We both do Camp Gladiator. We exercise, so it's kind of like practice what you preach. If we're going to tell people to move, then damn it, we better move. So we do. And then it was supposed to be my wife, Gina, but you got me. So I stuck a picture of me in here real quick, and you can see me on the video. But Gina and I started Aware Senior Care 2014. And we're blessed to meet people like Katie and other great people in the community to work together, and we call Team Elder Care, to help people. And we've grown from starting out in our townhome, and I'm sure Katie kind of did the same thing, to 130 caregivers, 9 full-time staff, and taking care of a lot of families and been blessed along the way. And our approach has always been education, outreach, and people have a tendency to remember you. And we help people whether we're going to provide the service, so we say, listen, you should work with somebody like Katie to get your mobility back on track. And then if you need help in the home, okay, we're up for it. So why would I lose my mobility? That's a great question. Understanding the issues. Okay, getting old. All of it. We're at various stages of our life, and changes occur in your body. I mean, it's amazing. I've noticed. It's very. At 30 or 40, it just seemed like I can roll out of bed. I'm ready to go. Minimal exercise, feeling good. As we've gotten and Gina and I hit our 60s, we got to work at it a bit more. And we kind of notice like a car, there's like maintenance required, and these little things start hurting us. That's a natural thing. So basically, as you get older, our body changes, and you can see some of the things like less bone density. Yes, that is true. Well, if that's the case, then we may be subject to fractures more easily than we were when we were younger. So these things they happen in life. So the other thing, we could be hit by certain diseases that we really have no control over. and they impact your system. Things like Parkinson's. We had a wonderful seminar with a friend and associate of Katie's, Deidre Buxton, last week on Parkinson's. And guess what? The big thing that she was talking about to help mitigate Parkinson's was exercise. So there's a common theme there. So what happens with less mobility? You're not as happy as you be in your. I love this picture because that reminds me of me some days. Like, geez. The biggest thing is falls. When you lose mobility, you're having coordination issues, you're more prone to falls, and that's why really is the genesis of this whole seminar. And with that comes some things that make things difficult for you to live life. Just getting in and out of bed. You used to take walks often. You may be unsteady, and then you're concerned that, geez, what if I trip on the curb or something like that? Well, maybe I stop walking, and then you stop walking, you're not exercising, so it starts this cycle. I don't eat well. If you don't watch your nutrition, think about your body. If you're going to exercise, you're going to drive your car, it needs fuel. And it matters the type of fuel you put in there. So eating well, it's all connected. Eating well, getting the energy, exercising. But in terms of home care and your home, if you don't take care of yourself and you lose mobility, I remember Dr. Fisher, Doctors Making House Calls, who wrote a book about how to keep your mom out of a nursing home. He's all about mobility. You lose mobility, you lose your options. So that's why it's great to pay attention to this. You have your mobility, you have options. And one of those is you love your home, stay in your home. Some of us, we bought houses that have an upstairs and downstairs, got to climb those stairs. So this seminar is really pertinent to that. But that when you lose mobility, you start a spiral that you want to try to reverse or lessen, and exercise is a key to that. In terms of falls, besides the great things you're going to learn from Katie, there are things you can do to help prevent you from falling. The home, a home safety checklist. We have on our resources board on our website a very brief checklist on your home. And it's like, take things out of play. If it's night, and you're walking around the home and it's totally dark, there's a chance you can step on something and fall. So add night lights in the bedroom, keep the house well lit. If you're in the bathroom, you can do things like installing grab bars or have a nice shower bench in there. My mother's house in New York, when she fell and I went through this, she loved throw rugs. Throw rugs are a problem. They're really great, but unfortunately, how many of you have hit the edge of a throw rug or slipped? So removing them and having a consistent surface is a key. And then clutter. So there's certain things you can do. And I call it make your home adaptable to you and where you are in your life, and take things out of play that could potentially cause you to fall. So what can I do about it? Well, Katie talks about, in previous seminars we've done, and I really love that because I'm a military guy, have a plan, have a mobility plan. Consult with your doctor. Always recommend that whatever the issue in life, it's always great to have a great primary physician and assess your current condition, report any falls, get certain recommendations from your doctor. And then we talked about the safety checklist, reducing falls. Make sure your environment supports you, it doesn't work against you. And then have appropriate footwear. I don't know how many of you, and I'm guilty as charged, are wearing those socks and you're going down wooden steps and you slip, right? Not a great idea. And the last thing is establish an exercise plan. And this is where you can work with a great physical therapist like Katie and establish some type of routines. And we'll talk, Katie will cover that. And at the end, I'll talk about how home care can help you there. But establish a plan. And that plan could be simply taking a walk at certain times of the day, every day or 5 days a week, just starting there. And then there's exercises that you can do outside and inside. With COVID-19, we did a lot of stuff inside, and Katie will cover that. So make a plan and then commit to it. So at this point, what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to turn it over to our friend and colleague, Katie, who is going to get to the meat of the program. Take it away, Katie.
All right. Are we back? Can you see me?
We can see you.
Okay.
Looks good.
Well, our clinic, Steps for Recovery, just opened this week, and I was emailing with Tim, and I said, you know, I sort of did not consider the fact that there would be people in the clinic when I was doing this presentation. So as it turns out, I pre-recorded a lot of my instructional videos. So I'm mainly going to be your host through this next part of the presentation, but a lot of the things that I will be showing to you, I have pre-recorded. But we've tested them and it looks like it's good to go. And I certainly have some space behind me where if you have questions or you need additional demonstration, I'll be able to do that at the end. And please, by all means, interrupt if you have questions. There's a chat feature on Zoom where you can type in a question and Kyle can interrupt me, no problem. Or just unmute yourself and speak up, that's also fine. All right, so the topic today is not being afraid of the floor, getting up from the floor, getting down to the floor, getting up if you fall. But falling is not the only reason why a person might need to get up from the floor. This is a very important functional activity. You know, maybe you want to get on the floor to play with your kids or your grandkids. Maybe you need to clean a toilet or scrub the floor. Maybe you need to retrieve the $20 bill that you dropped. And so you want to be able to safely get down and get back up. Gardening is a big one too that we'll talk about today. A lot of people enjoy being outside, working in the garden, and certainly in this spring of COVID-19, a lot of the yards are absolutely gorgeous because people have nothing but time to work on them. And so that's been a big topic this year is how can I safely get outside and do some gardening in my yard? And we'll talk about that today. Another reason why being able to get up and down from the floor is important are the obvious safety reasons, but also empowerment. You know, if you think that you will fall or you are afraid of falling, statistics show that you are actually more likely to fall. And so if we can remove, you know, people are afraid of falling because they're afraid they'll get hurt, but they're also afraid of falling because they're afraid they won't be able to get back up by themselves. So if we can be proactive and remove that fear by empowering you with the ability and the knowledge that you can safely get down and you can safely get back up, then we may reduce that fear. We may reduce that fear that is present and in the back of your mind. And then also, if you don't know how to get up safely, then it is possible that another fall can occur while you're in the process of getting up. So if you don't have a plan or you don't have the skill or you don't have the ability, just the process of trying to get up from the floor could cause additional injury. But another reason why this is important is getting up and down from the floor is great exercise. There's a tremendous amount of strength, range of motion, coordination, balance that are all required and part of this activity. So it is exercise. And I tell people this is a skill that you have to maintain. Just like if you start lifting weights and you gradually build up how much weight you can lift, if you stop lifting weights and you go back to it 3 months later, you cannot pick up where you left off. And the same is true of getting up and down from the floor. If you have to work to attain this skill, once you attain it, if you stop practicing, you will lose the skill. So getting up and down from the floor, once you learn how to do it, it should be a part of your normal routine. Every few days or several days out of the week, you should make it a point in your day to get down and to get back up so that you retain the skill, you retain the flexibility, you retain the strength, the balance, all of the know-how that's going to safely allow you to get down and get back up. So learn the skill and keep practicing, because if you don't use it, you will definitely lose it. All right, now there are options. There are lots and lots and lots of ways to get down to the floor and get back up. Maybe the biggest success option is if you have a nice, stable, heavy piece of furniture to help you. This is going to help you with your balance. It's going to allow you to use your arms and your legs to help you. So some examples of stable supports would be big pieces of furniture, the couch or your bed. If you have a really heavy wood coffee table, that's going to be a good option. As you gain more control, you could maybe try using a less stable support, like a dining room chair, something that will still provide you a lot of ability to push down through it and use your arms, but it's maybe not quite as heavy, so you can't really pull on it so much. This is a transition that can be performed with no support. So if you're in the middle of the room or you're out in your yard, I'm going to demonstrate to you today some techniques that you can use to get back up if you don't have anything to lean on. You can also do this with a caregiver helping you if you need assistance to get into different positions or not. But one of the big points that we'll talk about along the way is that this does not have to be an all or nothing transition. You can break it up so that you're not going all the way from standing up to down on the floor. You can sit on surfaces. You can bridge the gap between positions by sitting on progressively taller surfaces. So there are ways to make this transition easier and more attainable, especially when you're just starting the process of learning. So some tools that can help. One thing that we recommend here in the clinic is that you take a trip to Lowe's or Home Depot or your favorite hardware store, and you spend about $3 a pair to get some of these foam knee pads. And these are great, number one, because they're really cheap and they're very lightweight. So it's easy to buy 2, 3, 4 pairs. You have a pair in your home, a pair in your car, a pair, at your child's house if you go and visit frequently, or in your purse or whatever bag you carry with you when you leave the house. And what's nice about these is it just makes this process of transitioning more comfortable. So if you're trying to recover from a fall, you've already undergone a lot of trauma just getting there. And so if you have arthritis or you have hard floors like ceramic tile or hardwood, getting up can be just as traumatic as getting down sometimes. And so the knee pads can they're easy Velcro on, and they make the transition more comfortable for you. A step stool is another tool that a lot of us have in our homes, and it's lightweight, it's portable. So if you do fall somewhere where you don't have a piece of furniture to help you, I'm going to show you how you may use a step stool to bridge the gap and to ease the transition. Of course, a life alert button where you can press a button and signal for help is a huge asset. But a lot of technology is coming out now that is fall sensing technology. So I know Apple Watch has this technology built into their watch, and I believe Fitbit has something similar, where if you're wearing this watch, it actually can sense if you fall, and you can either program it to alert EMS to immediately call 911, or you can program it to alert a family member to come help you. So there's technology every day. They're coming out with new things to keep people safe and in their homes for longer. And of course, a gait belt or a clothing belt, if you are having someone to assist you to get back up, a belt can help by giving your assistant or your caregiver something to hold on to rather than pulling on a shoulder or pulling, picking you up from under the arms. So it doesn't mean that it's not without its issues as well, but having a belt handy may provide your caregiver a little bit of extra support and oomph rather than pulling on your body. So some strategies for a safe transition. And so these are just like conceptual things that are related to getting up and down from the floor. The first is to use a surface. So if you have something that you can use for balance and to propel, meaning to help lift your body up or to slowly lower your body down as you're making this transition, it's far easier than if you're just trying to get up out in the middle of the room with nothing to balance or to support you. And surfaces come in all shapes, sizes, and heights. And so there's a wide variety out there. When you are transitioning, I'm going to focus today a lot on transitioning through something called half kneeling, which is where you stagger your feet and you go down on one knee with your other leg forward. Well, when you are transitioning in and out of that position, the further apart you can make your feet before you start lowering or coming up, the bigger base of support you're going to have and the more balance you will feel. So a lot of times when I first start working with people and I say stagger your feet, I get about that much stagger, and I say, oh, no, we need big stagger. And you'll see on the video how this will play out. The other thing is remember the tripod. So when people often, when they try to boost themselves up onto a couch or onto a bed or something like that, they'll have one arm on the bed or maybe even two, and they'll have their leg that's closest to the surface be the one that's forward. Well, that sets you off in kind of a diagonal where the leg that is forward is on the same side where you have the support. And so that actually biases you to one side and makes you off balance. And so you'll see in the videos that I recommend, if your surface is on your right, then your left leg should be forward, and I need another hand. Your right leg should be back so that you make your support places, make a triangle or a tripod. And your body weight is going to stay right in the middle of that tripod as you're lifting and lowering. And that will help you to feel very safe and secure. I've mentioned it already, and it bears mentioning it again. This does not have to be a full-on standing up tall to laying on the floor transition. We can break up the trip using different stools or tables or surfaces to make it easier. And this is one of those tools. My mom has one of these, and I was at her house and it was sitting out on the back porch, and I kind of sat on it and I turned it over and I kneeled on it and I said, Mom, I got to borrow this for my presentation. This is fantastic. And it is great. These are garden kneelers, and they're available at any garden center, hardware store, Amazon, Walmart. But they have a nice pad on one side, and you can either turn it so that the legs are down and the pad is up and it's a seat, like you see this woman sitting on it in the top right-hand corner, or you can flip it over and it's a pad that you can kneel on, and then the handles come up on the sides. Now, this is incredibly lightweight. It's made of aluminum, so it weighs almost nothing, and it can be folded up so that it does not take up much room in terms of storage. And so if you like to be out in the yard gardening, I would highly recommend that you invest in a little garden kneeler. And depending on how many accessories you get on it, they run from $20 to $60. But you certainly can find a very affordable option. And so this is great if you're working out in the yard, but it's also a great tool to have around to have a very portable but very stable surface to use in the event that you fall, or in the event that you are choosing to get up and down from the floor. There's nothing that says this has to be used outside. So if you like to get down and really scrub your floors or clean your toilets, you have your kneeler inside and you flip it over so that the kneeling part is down, and you can get down and really scrub, but still have a tool right there traveling with you that can assist you to get back up. Now, there are many ways to perform this transition, and I could not possibly show you all of them. And certainly the way that I show you today is not going to work for everyone. And so some of you are going to need some individualized instruction, and that's fine. But we're going to discuss a few options and give you some basic concepts. So first, I'm going to show you the video of getting down to the floor. And Tim, just give me a high sign if the volume is not good.
Got it.
To safely get down onto the floor, it's helpful if you have a surface that you can use for support. The basic concept, no matter what type of surface that you're using, is that you want to go down through a half kneeling position, which means one knee on the floor and one leg forward. So I'm going to use my surface for support, and I could have one hand or two hands there. I'm going to step one leg forward and the other leg as far back as I can. The stagger is important because if your feet are close together, as you go down, you will feel very unstable. But if you can get your feet far apart, as you lower yourself to the floor, you'll have a nice wide base, and it will feel more comfortable and safer. Once you get a knee down to the ground, you can transition your other knee down and your hands down, And then you can come to a side sitting position on either hip, and then you're free to move about wherever you need to go.
All right, so now we're down. How do we get back up?
If you find yourself on the floor and you need to get up, the easiest way is if you have a piece of stable furniture near you that you can use for balance and for support, possibly even to sit on if you need to. So if you are all the way down on the floor, you would want to work your way up onto your elbows, maybe into side sitting. But if you needed to move, say you were not near the bed or the couch, you may even need to push all the way up onto hands and knees so that you can crawl and move closer to the surface. So from this side sitting position, I transition to my hands and knees. I spread my knees apart and my feet and my knees and my hands apart so I have a nice stable base. Reach up for the surface, and then I can use my hands and my legs to push up, step together, and stand up. Alternatively, you could push up and turn and sit on the surface.
But every time in that video and in the ones that are coming up, that tripod concept still comes back. The support is on one side and the opposite foot is forward and the foot that's on the side of the support is back. So I'm going to show you some other options here. Maybe. Here we go.
If you're on the floor and it's too difficult to go all the way from the floor up to a surface, you can break up the trip using a stool, an aerobic step, a kneeler, anything that provides a midway point between all the way down and all the way up here. So I've picked an aerobic step, and I'm just going to use my hands on the step for support, boost up onto my knees, and sit on the step. And now I'm 6 or 7 inches off the ground. So I can reposition my feet under me. I can use a hand up on the surface to provide more leverage and push up. And from here I can either sit on the mat and come all the way up, or I could go from here and stand all the way up.
All right. What if we don't have any of that?
If you are not close to a stable surface or you're not able to move your body where you need to go, you could have a caregiver or a friend or someone bring a chair or something similar to you. In this position, I have the seat of the chair facing me. I'm going to come up onto my hands and knees again, walk my hands up to the seat of the chair, bring one leg forward and push through both hands and both feet to come up, step forward, and stand up.
Now, what do you do if you don't have anything?
If you are very flexible and mobile and you have pretty good balance, you may want to try getting down onto the floor with no surfaces for support. In this case, many of the concepts are the same. First, you want to have that stagger in your feet. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to reach my hand toward the floor so that I have a tripod position. This hand can also go to the floor, or you can leave it on your knee. I'm going to come down onto my knee, and then from here I can move to hands and knees or sit all the way down. To get back up, I'm going to follow the same concept. I'm coming to hands and knees. I'm bringing one leg forward, leaving space between my front foot and my back knee. And I'm going to push my bottom into the air. One hand on the ground or both hands on the ground. Step forward, and then I can walk my hands up my legs to a standing posture.
All right. Here comes the garden kneeler. What happens if we're outside?
In the event that you fall outside, this garden tool can be very helpful for getting back up. So whether you choose to be on the ground or whether you end up there unexpectedly, something like this can serve as a support for you to make the transition. So this is reversible, so you could have the seat up and use that for support, push down on to help you up. Alternatively, it can be flipped over, and so then when you go to get up, you have two handles that you can push on to help you stand up. Or if you go from here and you make the transition just up just a little, it may be easier to get up from that position.
Now, if you wonder, how are you possibly going to remember all of these options? Well, first, Tim's going to provide you a recording of this video so you can watch again. But I also, and you may have already sent it out or you're going to send it out on the email, there is a handout with lots of pictures of every single step in this process along with written directions. So you'll have something to refer back to. You can either rewatch all of the videos, or you'll have a written handout that'll show you all of these steps and ideas. Now, if you fall, a few important things to remember. One is, don't be in a hurry to get up. And this is where people tend to make their biggest mistake, which is they're down on the floor and they feel like they got to get up right away. Well, if your house is not on fire or you're not laying in the middle of the street, there really isn't a reason to hurry to get up. If you ended up down there unexpectedly, you likely are going to have a lot of adrenaline. You may be a little disoriented. Your heart might be racing. So I tell people, just, have somebody bring you a pillow and just lay there and chill out for a little bit. But you're going to use that time. You're going to survey head to toe and make sure that nothing is injured. If you are injured, don't try to get up by yourself. Just call 911 and let EMS come in and assist you. But the other thing that you're going to do while you're relaxing and you're calming down and you're breathing and you've decided that you are not injured is you're going to make a plan. Oh, there we go. You make a plan. So if you don't know, if you fail to plan to fail. You need to know what you're going to do. How are you going to get up? What surfaces do you need? What position do you need to be in? Because a lot of times people just start this process without a plan, and then they find that they're facing the wrong direction, or they're caught up in furniture, or things just aren't set up in a way that is conducive to get up. And then they have to expend even more energy rearranging themselves. So if you decide before you ever start moving what the steps are in your plan, you will save energy and are more likely to be successful. And as always, call someone if you need help. So if you need physical assistance to perform the transfer, or if you are injured, definitely call 911. And of course, 911 is always an option. When all else fails, you can't do it, call 911. Now, there are some things that you can do now. If you haven't been on the floor in years, just going out and telling you how to do it doesn't mean that you can necessarily do it. So I am not suggesting that just because you've watched a video on the technique that this is a safe process for everyone to engage in right out of the bat. You might need to develop some strength or some flexibility to allow you to engage in this activity more safely. So I have provided, and these are part of the handout as well, 5 different exercises that would be safe for most anyone to start with at this point to practice different parts of the transition so that you can work toward being able to do this on your own. And so I'm laying on a mat for these 3 exercises, but they can easily be done on your bed.
I'm going to show you 3 exercises that you can do on your bed or on the floor to help strengthen the transition in a more horizontal posture for getting up off the floor. In the first exercise, you'll lay on one side with your bottom arm out in front of you, and all you're going to do is roll forward and push up onto your elbow, and then come down. This hand can be used to help. You roll forward, push through both arms, and come up and back down. Start with 10 repetitions. Then the next part that you'll progress to is going from your elbow, pushing up to your hands. Slide your hand forward, come back down to your elbow. So in this position, I've planted both of my hands. I'm pushing through both hands to come up. Slide my hand back, forward and down. Plant the hands, push up, slide back, slide forward and down. The next activity builds off of that top position where I've planted, I've extended, and I've brought my hands around. For this activity, we're going to push through the hands and push through the bottom knee, and you're going to come up to a sort of a side plank position, working toward being on your hands and knees. For a lot of individuals, it's this transition that is the hardest to do when moving into a hands and knees position to get off the floor. So you're really pushing through this back arm and through your knee to push up toward your knees. If you want to go all the way, then just move that bottom knee out to the side, bring it back in and back down.
And of course, in all my demonstrations, I start from a position of being on my side. And so even a precursor to these three exercises is if you have difficulty rolling from your back to your side, or from your stomach perhaps to your side, that's another skill or activity that you could safely practice on your bed. And now I'm going to give you two more options, or it's one option, one exercise with two options to try in standing.
To help strengthen your leg muscles and your balance, to improve your transfer from standing to kneeling on the floor, one activity you can try, I'm calling a step back lunge. So if you stand at your counter or at the back of the couch or somewhere where you have some support, you'll step your outside leg forward, your inside leg that's closest to the surface back in that big stagger, and you're going to bend your knees, straighten to come back up, and then come back to the start position. Now, as you get stronger, you can bend lower and lower until you're coming all the way down and all the way up. You don't have to step back to the start position each time, but if you need to practice that transition, you can. If you're nervous about going down and not being able to get back up, you can use a stool or a block, and you're going to straddle it so that when you come down, you have a place for your knee to land, and then you can push back up. And this can help you to grade the exercise as you're getting stronger, and then you just need lower and lower and lower surfaces to kneel on and come back up.
All right, so those exercises are included in your handout as well. Now, if you need a refresher, we have our website, which is called stepsforrecovery.com. We've been doing a whole series of educational videos, and some of them are movement videos and some of them are just education. And we started doing this when our clinic shut down because of COVID-19. So if you go to our webpage, stepsforrecovery.com, there's a big banner on the front page that says, click here for educational resources. But eventually that'll come down, and so you'll have to go to the Our Services page. And on this drop down here, which hopefully you can see my cursor, there's the bottom one is called Steps Live Resources. Now, our clinic sees primarily people who have had stroke, traumatic brain injury, and spinal cord injury. And so a lot of the educational resources are geared toward that patient or client population. But as part of the list of things, we have already done a video on getting up and down off the floor. So if you have had a stroke and you're watching this and you wonder, well, I can't use both arms or both legs as well as I'd like to, what are some other techniques? You could go watch that video for some more information. But this recording will be added to that section of our Steps Live resources, as well as the handouts, both for the one that we created for this presentation, as well as there is a handout that is geared toward performing these transitions and doing exercises for people who can't use one side of their body as well. So this is another place to go for more resources. And I think Now I'm going to turn it back over to Tim. So I'm going to click stop share. And hopefully it's coming back to you.
It is.
All right.
Or it has. Great. That was wonderful, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I have more slides on mine if you
Well, actually, we reached the Q&A section.
Oh, okay. There we
Yep.
go.
We're good. You guys should see my screen. It was a really wonderful presentation. And, you know, Gina and I went through Teepa Snow's dementia. We are certified dementia trainers, and really how to be a part of that is being a good trainer and good person. And there's an aha moment. And we do Camp Gladiator, and I was watching Katie's exercise, and I thought those lunges are going to come in handy that we do. We do a ton of them.
Sometimes I get my best ideas from Camp Gladiator workouts.
So, you know, and the other thing I would mention is in home care, you know, in my journey, I noticed one time I went into a home, and I was like, why is that stool next to where the phone is? It said, if I fall, I can boost myself up and then I can reach the phone. And I thought, this is brilliant. They had a plan around the house, you know, if a fall occurred to help get up. You saw Katie with those little benches and so forth. I've seen clients have a phone on the floor, you know, plugged in. There's all sorts of things you can do in your mobility plan and making your house to support you. So, I mean, it was really useful to hear Katie's presentation. So we'd like to open this up for 5 to 10 minutes of questions. And we're a little short-staffed today, so guess what? I'm going to be the Q&A moderator. But home care. A common question is, how do you work with somebody like Katie in physical therapy? And the answer is, well, it's great when we get to work with a family that has either home health or they're working with a physical therapist like Katie, and they'll go to Katie's office and do things, but Katie usually have a plan where when you're at home, do these things. And what we can do if we are your home care agency and our caregivers is we can be trained ourselves on what exercise plan or what you're doing, and we can be there to encourage, mentor, and be the wingman. Because one of the things Katie said, if a fall happens, you've got a caregiver, great. They can help you. And here's the key. A common question we get from families says, my mom is prone to falls, and you know, she's about 180 pounds. Do your caregivers can they pick them up off the floor? The answer is no, we don't do that. Now, that doesn't mean other agencies can do that, but as you can imagine, a caregiver trying to pick up somebody off the floor not only could potentially hurt you, but hurt themselves. So the common proper techniques in terms of caregiving is our caregivers are authorized to pick up things 25 pounds or so. If you fall, they're going to be your coach. They can bring benches over. I mean, they can, like Katie said, they can be by your side. They also can use a gait belt possibly. There's lots of tools. They can help to assist. But in the most cases, if there's a fall, 911 is always the safest thing to do. But in training, do we cover falls in our caregiver training? We absolutely do. And we talk about things that Katie does. So home care, you know, we look at in your home, you build your what we call circle of support, because you have therapists, home care, and various pieces. We're part of your team that can help you get stronger, working with a physical therapist, and assist and remind you time to get off your keister and do your exercises. So that's what we can do. So Katie, one of the questions we have for you is from the audience is, I want to get down onto the floor, but I haven't done it in a long time. How do I know if these techniques are safe for me to try on my own?
Well, it's a great question. And like I said during the presentation, if this is not something that you have done or tried in, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it might not be the best idea to just go willy-nilly, stand in the middle of your floor and say, all right, well, I know the technique. Let me make my tripod and get down. If you have difficulty getting up from a low chair, you're probably going to have a hard time getting up from the floor. So my best recommendation is if you are trying this for the first time, you need to set yourself up to be absolutely as safe as possible, which means don't try this by yourself, for one thing. You need to have someone who can assist you in the event that you need a little bit of slowing down, going down, or some boosting to get back up. So the presence of a capable caregiver, whether that is a spouse, another family member, a home care aide, a therapist, it's always good to have a buddy when you try this for the first time. The second thing is break it up. So, have your series of surfaces so that you go from a normal chair down to something a little lower, down to something a little lower, so that you're not trying to do everything all at once. And then the same thing on the way back up. But if you have trouble getting up from a low surface, it may be that just practicing standing up from a low chair and doing repetitions of that is a great first step to take toward getting back down onto the floor.
That's great. And I want to follow on because this is important in terms of working with Katie and considering COVID-19 and a stay-at-home. Is therapy an option in light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Katie?
Well, it's certainly more of an option this week than it was a month ago. A lot of places now, as the state is moving into their phase 2, a lot of places are opening back up. Now, our clinic certainly has a number of restrictions in place to ensure everyone's safety. If falling or getting up from the floor were something that was an issue for you, you don't feel safe or feel capable of trying this on your own, and you feel like I really need the guidance of a therapist, we can work with you through your insurance to provide therapy services. However, as can most clinics now, but most places are limiting the number of people who are allowed in the building at any one time, requiring masks or other face coverings through the duration of time that you're in the building. So there are some limitations and some things that you have to be willing to do to protect yourself and to protect the people caring for you. But outpatient therapy is absolutely an option. There are home health therapists. If you're not able to get out of your home, you may be eligible for a therapist to come to you and work on this skill. But anytime you engage in a therapy program, your therapist should ask you, what are your goals? What do you want to be able to do? And I would encourage you to keep getting up and down from the floor in the back of your mind as a goal that you would like to be able to work toward, even if that's not the reason that you sought out therapy to begin with. If you are not able to get out to a clinic, or you are nervous about getting out due to the contagious virus, a lot of places, including ours, are offering telehealth services where it's very similar to what you're doing now. We're face-to-face on a computer screen. We can each talk and hear us, and we can coach you through this transition and provide adaptations that are unique to your circumstances. Still, it would be very helpful and in some cases necessary for you to have a caregiver on your end that can guard and spot and help you as needed. But this is a process that we can at least start to engage in over the computer if you're not able to get out to a clinic.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. Just got a couple more minutes, and I really appreciate everybody hanging on here. But a common question we get, and I'd like Katie to address this too, is typically say, okay, how do I pay for these things? And it does my insurance cover it? And I'll start from a home care perspective. Home care is classified as non-medical. With that, although we do have skilled nursing, we have 2 nurses, and we do have our skilled nursing license. But for the bulk of home care, personal care companion, it's non-medical, therefore it's mainly private pay. So things like Medicare, Medicaid don't cover it unless there's some special circumstances. But for the most part, you count on private pay. If you have long-term care insurance, that can cover home care to some perspective. If you're a veteran, my mom was married to a veteran, and mom was qualified for VA aid and attendance, so some of her care is covered. But for the most part, it's private pay. And so for Katie, from your end, could you tell the audience how your services, if insurance covers them?
Yes. So physical therapy is a skilled service, and as long as you have a need for a skilled service and the potential to make gains, your insurance will cover therapy services. Now, different practices are in-network providers with different insurances. And so you want to make sure that when you contact any practice for therapy, you want to verify whether they not only do they take your insurance, but do they participate with your insurance? Because we take any insurance, but we're only network providers with certain ones, which means that if we are out of network with your particular insurance, it may cost you more out of pocket. And now these Medicare replacement plans are very popular. And so if you have an Aetna Medicare plan or United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan, it's important that when you call an office and they say, what is your insurance, that the answer is not Medicare, because from a provider standpoint, these Medicare replacement or Medicare Advantage plans that are administered by private insurances function more like private insurance than they do Medicare. So unless you have that red, white, and blue Medicare card, you need to look on your card and see exactly what it says. And if it says United Healthcare Medicare Advantage, that's what you want to tell the person when you call to make an appointment. And Tim, I don't know if you noticed it, but we have a question in the chat, which I can read if you want me to.
Oh, please do.
Okay, so the question from the audience says, what about if you have a double hip replacement or if you don't have anything around and you're alone? Well, if you have a double hip replacement, then you have to be aware of those hip precautions. There are certain movements that you maybe shouldn't make. Maybe it's not a good idea for you to be bending so much. And so this is going to be a wholly unsatisfying answer, but this is going to be very much dependent on how much range of motion you have, what your orthopedic surgeon is allowing you to do from a range of motion and mobility standpoint, because that's going to make a difference. But it's a great question because these techniques may not be right for you. To speak to the what if you don't have anything around or you are alone, I would say if you find yourself in this circumstance a lot and you have mobility or balance concerns, that you are a perfect candidate for something like a life alert button or some of these fall sensing devices like an Apple Watch, because the thing would be attached to you and would allow you the opportunity to call for help without having to move should you fall. Also, cell phones are another option, that if you have a cell phone, having a way to connect it to your person so that it's always with you, whether that's a belt clip or carrying it in your pocket. But having that cell phone with you all the time, again, provides you a way to reach out and get help if you need it.
That's great. And I want to close with questions we get about home care and assisting and working with Katie or you in the home. We have a 4-hour minimum. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get a caregiver to come for an hour or 2 hours. So it's blocks of 4. You'll typically find that with home care. But the other thing we do is we're very conscious of cost and also the advantages of technology. So things like you'll hear those famous commercials, "I've fallen and I can't get up." There's some really great technology from Philips, Connect America. I've researched them. I've implemented some of my mom, and they are very effective. And it's great if you're thinking of a 24/7 and a family calls us up. That's very costly to have a caregiver there. And if it's only because kind of a guard against the fall, an option is technology. And there are amazing technologies out there that you could put sensors in doorways to, if a door opened, a medicine cabinet, a pressure sensor in the bed, video. You can get kind of get kind of carried away with it. But we do know a lot about technology, and we're working with a family. I'm also looking at cost, and then can we use technology in essence to augment or replace a caregiver at certain times. So there's a lot of great options. If you have questions about that or life alerts, I could send you some recommendations. There's a lot of choices. So I hope everybody enjoyed this as much as I did. Gina and I always love getting together with Katie. It's a lot of fun. Always have a great aha moment, but would encourage you all to just look life in the eye and say, I'm doing it. I'm going to be mobile. I'm going to do these things and reach out to people like Katie, us, others in the community that can help you. There's wonderful people in our community and wonderful resources. So, Katie, thank you once again.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
I will follow up, as Katie said, to all of you with, if you didn't get it over the chat, the document that Katie put together with all the exercise examples, plus a link to this recording so you can view it again. God bless you for joining us today. It's a beautiful day out there. It's going to get warmer right here tomorrow, but get outside, enjoy life, and thank you for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.